starting my little Catalan journey. That's why I ended up learning. And then Portuguese was similar. It wasn't necessarily that people seemed touched when I would like try and speak the basic Portuguese I knew, but it was just there's a bar in Toronto, and every Thursday the drinks were half price. So all of the international students would always go there for the cheap alcohol, and I would go there for the languages. So
I would go there for both.
yeah, yeah. After a while, I'm not gonna lie, I started going for both. The cheap beer and the languages.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I had tons of experiences where I would think people were speaking Spanish from far away, and then I'd approach and I'd start speaking Spanish. Like, no, 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 we're from Brazil. And then I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. It's just from far away. It just sounded so similar to Spanish. And then that happened a lot. So eventually I was
Whoa.
like, I may as well just learn Portuguese, because I was just thinking, I'm sitting on a gold mine. There are so many Brazilians here. This is a gold mine. I could be speaking to so many of them, like learning about their culture or talking to them. And then so that's why I learned Portuguese, just because that kept happening. And then yeah, so those are the two, I guess, the most
Cool.
interesting stories behind two languages,
This
Catalan and
was at a
Portuguese.
bar in Canada, right?
In Canada, yeah. Hmm.
Uh-huh. Oh wow. And I find that Brazilians are some of like the most open, just funnest, cheerful people that you could ever come across. Like for me, I have three countries that I really, really am interested to kind of visit and explore. One, Russia, two, China, and three, Brazil. And I don't know exactly what language I'm going to learn after Russian, but I'm leaning towards Chinese. But even then, like I need to increase my like why or my motivation to do it. But Portuguese for me, since it's so similar to Spanish, it doesn't just like say, Mark, you must learn Portuguese.
Yeah.
But as a country and as a people, I'm like so interested to check it out. And even if I don't dedicate a lot of time, maybe I could do like, I don't know, 3 to 6 months of Portuguese study just to make my trip there when I go, more fruitful, because we both know what it's like to communicate in the language with the people of that culture. And it's just like, it just opens up doors beyond doors. And it's such a great experience.
Hmm. Hmm. I agree with that 100%. And especially because you already speak Spanish,
Mhm.
learning Portuguese, I feel like you could reach a pretty high level after a month, even. I feel like you could get it after just 1 month. So yeah, I don't know. Portuguese was definitely one of the most enriching languages that I learned.
Wow.
It's so many nice experiences, and I had a little bit of a running joke going with some of the Brazilians that I meet, because I'd see a group of Brazilians. I wouldn't hear them speak, but I'd see them, and I would just they just seemed Brazilian. And then I'd approach and then be like, "Yeah, we are Brazilian, but how'd you know?" I'd be like, "You guys look like you're enjoying life." Like, I just like the Brazilians always
Oh.
just seem happy, and then the Canadians just seem, even though I am Canadian, it's just I just feel like we just seem a bit more down, and like
Mm.
not as the Brazilians just always seemed happy for some reason. They just always seemed to be in a more cheerful mood. So if a group looked happy, I was always like Brazilians, and I always try and approach. And if a group looked, just today's okay, it was like Canadian.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you've done a bit of traveling, and you were learning a bit of Dutch, and I thought it was interesting. You were going to Dutch speaking countries, trying to speak whatever you could of Dutch, but I know you were in Holland, you were trying to speak, and
Hmm.
I think that being a Dutch learner in Holland has to be like one of the most difficult tasks, because they're notorious for having such a nice level of English. And if you don't come with like strong Dutch, I imagine that they're just like switch. So how did you do it? How did you maintain these conversations in Dutch, even though you may have had a low level? And because I'm sure they just switched like that. They probably didn't entertain you like the people that spoke to you in Catalan did. Um, how did you go about that? Because like when someone does that to you, like you feel the pressure. You feel all of a sudden, oh no, I have to
Hmm.
switch back to, let's say, English or whatever. How did you
Hmm.
manage that whole situation?